When a teacher mocked a young girl for claiming her mom was a Navy SEAL, the entire class laughed until the school doors swung open the next day and the truth marched in wearing full uniform. If you love your mom and dad, hit that subscribe button and show some love to her, because this story will make you proud of every parent who's ever fought for their child. The morning at Hillsdale Middle School started like any other. Sunlight spilling across polished floors, kids laughing in the hallway, and teachers rushing to their classrooms. But for Emma Johnson, a shy 13-year-old with golden brown hair and soft blue eyes, it was already shaping up to be one of the hardest days of her life. Emma sat quietly at her desk, clutching the corner of her notebook, while her classmates whispered behind her back. They weren't whispering because she failed a test or forgot her homework. It was because of what she had said the day before. Her history teacher, Ms. Roberts, had been lecturing about military heroes when she asked the class if anyone knew someone who had served. Emma, nervous but proud, had raised her hand and said softly, "My mom was a Navy SEAL." The room fell silent, then came laughter. Ms. Roberts' eyebrow arched sharply. "Sweetheart," she said with a patronizing smile, "I think you mean your mom worked with the Navy, maybe as a nurse or assistant. There are no female Navy SEALs." Emma's heart sank. "No, ma'am," she whispered. "She really was a SEAL. She just doesn't talk about it much." That was when Ms. Roberts made a mistake she'd soon regret. She laughed, a cold, dismissive laugh, and said loud enough for the class to hear, "Emma, let's not tell tall tales. We're trying to learn history, not fiction." The class burst into giggles. Emma felt her face burn as she tried to defend herself, but Ms. Roberts cut her off. "That's enough, young lady. Don't lie about things like that. You've just earned detention for disrespecting your teacher." By the time the bell rang, Emma's eyes were filled with tears. She tried to explain again, but Ms. Roberts waved her away. The laughter followed her out of the classroom like a cruel echo. That night, Emma sat at the dinner table, quiet and withdrawn. Her mom, Commander Sarah Johnson, noticed immediately. Sarah was in her late 30s, her short hair neatly cropped, her posture still straight as a soldier's, even years after leaving active duty. "What happened at school, kiddo?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Emma hesitated, then told her everything, how Ms. Roberts called her a liar, how the whole class laughed, and how she was given detention. Sarah listened without interrupting, her jaw tightening slightly as Emma spoke. When her daughter finished, Sarah took a deep breath, her expression unreadable. "So," she said slowly, "your teacher thinks there's no such thing as a female Navy SEAL?" Emma nodded sadly. "She said it's impossible." Sarah leaned back in her chair, her eyes glinting with calm fire. "Then, I guess it's time she learned that impossible is just a word." The next morning, Hillsdale Middle School was buzzing as usual until the sound of heavy boots echoed down the hallway. Students turned their heads, whispering. Teachers peeked out of their classrooms. What they saw next looked like something out of a movie. Commander Sarah Johnson walked through the front doors wearing her full Navy dress uniform, medals gleaming, ribbons perfectly aligned, her SEAL trident catching the morning light. Behind her marched 4 members of her former unit, all in uniform, all with the same sharp, disciplined stride. Every conversation in the hallway stopped. The principal, Mr. Reynolds, hurried out of his office, looking both nervous and confused. "Commander Johnson?" he stammered. "What's going on here?" Sarah offered a polite but firm smile. "Just here to clear up a misunderstanding," she said, her voice steady and commanding. "May I have a word with Ms. Roberts?" Meanwhile, Emma, sitting in her first period class, heard the commotion outside. When the door opened and she saw her mother standing there, her breath caught. Ms. Roberts froze mid-sentence. Her face turned pale as Sarah and her team entered the classroom. "Good morning," Sarah said, her voice calm but powerful. "I'm Commander Sarah Johnson, former Navy SEAL. I understand my daughter was accused of lying about my service." The room went silent. Even the students who loved to gossip didn't dare make a sound. Ms. Roberts opened her mouth to speak but couldn't form words. I didn't realize," she stuttered. Sarah stepped forward, her medals glinting. "You told my daughter that women can't be Navy SEALs. You humiliated her in front of her classmates. You taught her to doubt the truth because it didn't fit your assumptions." The other SEALs stood silently behind her, a show of quiet solidarity that made the moment even more powerful. Ms. Roberts' hands shook slightly as she tried to regain composure. "I didn't mean any harm, Commander Johnson. It's just, I was under the impression that women couldn't do what men could," Sarah interrupted sharply. "That's the impression too many people still have, and it's wrong." One of the male SEALs, Chief Ramirez, spoke up. "She's the best of us, ma'am," he said proudly, looking at Sarah. "She led missions most people couldn't even survive." The students' eyes widened. The same kids who laughed at Emma now looked at her with admiration and shame. Sarah turned back to her daughter. "Emma, sweetheart, you told the truth, and I'm proud of you for it." Ms. Roberts' voice cracked. "Commander Johnson, I'm truly sorry. I didn't mean to." Sarah nodded slowly. "Apologies are fine, but lessons matter more. These kids should learn not to judge based on gender or appearances." Mr. Reynolds, who had been standing silently in the doorway, finally spoke. "Commander Johnson, on behalf of the school, I sincerely apologize. This was unacceptable. Ms. Roberts will issue a written apology, and we'll address this in staff training." Sarah gave a small nod, satisfied. "That's all I ask, thank you." But just as she turned to leave, a boy in the back of the class, one who had laughed the loudest the day before, raised his hand nervously. "Ma'am," he asked, "were you really a SEAL, like missions and everything?" Sarah smiled slightly. "Yes, missions and everything. But the hardest mission I ever had was being a mom." The class laughed softly, but this time it was with respect. When Sarah and her team walked out, the entire hallway stood still. Even teachers watched in awe as she passed. Emma followed her mother outside, her heart swelling with pride. As they got to the car, Emma whispered, "Thanks, Mom." Sarah smiled and placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "You never have to thank me for standing up for you. That's what moms and SEALs do." The story didn't end there. A few days later, the school invited Sarah to speak at an assembly about courage, equality, and respect. When she stepped on stage in front of hundreds of students and teachers, she shared her story. Not of battles fought overseas, but of barriers broken at home. "I wasn't the first woman to try," she said, "but I refuse to be the one who quit. Remember that the next time someone tells you that you can't do something." When the assembly ended, the entire gym erupted in applause. Even Ms. Roberts stood in the front row, clapping with tears in her eyes. She later approached Sarah and Emma together, apologizing once more. And this time, it felt genuine. From that day on, Emma wasn't just the shy girl in class anymore. She was the girl whose mom made history. The girl who taught everyone that real strength isn't about muscle, it's about integrity and belief. That lesson rippled through the school long after Sarah walked out those doors. Months later, when the school hosted its annual Hero Day, Sarah Johnson was invited as the keynote guest. And as she stood there, sharing her story beside her daughter, every student listened with respect. Even Ms. Roberts, who had once doubted, now looked at her with admiration. The moral of the story: never underestimate someone because of who you think they are. Real heroes don't always wear capes. They wear courage, humility, and love for their children. So, tell me, where are you watching this from? Which part of the country are you in today? Because this story isn't just about one mom or one daughter. It's about every person who ever stood up for the truth and proved the world wrong.